The second chapter of Tides of War has begun today, and with it comes new assignments, cosmetics, and a brand new game mode for us to get stuck into. The new SMG for the medic class is awesome, but first we're going to look at the new game mode. The new game mode is called Squad Conquest, and I've played it a bit today. What's it all about? Well, first of all, it's a much smaller game mode than we're used to. This one is only for 16 players, with of course 8 players on each team, made up of 2 squads of 4. When it comes to the Conquest part, think of it like normal Conquest, just smaller, kind of like Conquest Small was. There are only 3 points rather than the regular 5 to 7, and there are a few other things that change up the flow as well as limited vehicles. On the Battlefield website it said that you'd only be able to spawn on your team's headquarters, but that isn't the case, and it was simply a mistake on the website. You can spawn on the flags if you own them, and of course on squad mates just like normal. It's not too dissimilar to Domination in size, but of course with Domination you choose a random spawn point rather than being able to spawn on a specific flag. I mentioned limited vehicles, and each team can spawn in a tank if they wish, but there are no planes. The one tank can make a huge difference if used correctly though, as the play area is quite small. It reminds me a bit of Incursions from BF1. Now speaking of maps, this game mode is only available on 3 maps, and those are Arras, Rotterdam and Hamada. Why only 3 maps? Well, I think this boils down to the same reason that Rush is only going to be on 3 maps too. To start with, I think DICE wanted to ensure the best possible experience for this particular mode, and with that in mind they've worked really hard to ensure that Squad Conquest plays really well, and these 3 maps are the ones that they feel show the game mode off the best. Perhaps if it's popular we could see it on the other maps in the future. So this one, is also a limited time mode. That's right, the mode itself is only available until January the 30th, and then who knows if we'll ever see it again. I think this is just the way that the BF live service model is going to work. Seems like a lot of work though for something that isn't sticking around, but you could argue that it could bring in excitement when and if it does reappear, providing of course it's good. DICE did say that if there's a really positive response to these limited time game modes, they could be there permanently. So the question then, based on what I played today, is it any good? Well, from what I've played so far, I really enjoyed it. I preferred Arras and Rotterdam to Hamada personally, but I just don't really enjoy Hamada on any map or game mode, and this isn't going to change that. Squad play is really important on this, as you might imagine from the name, as both teams have pretty low tickets to begin with, and so losing tickets is incredibly costly here. Revives are really important too. Now I mentioned tanks earlier, and I'll reiterate that a good tanker can definitely make a big difference, and because there are only 8 players on each team spread out across potentially 3 points, they're a little less likely to get swarmed by multiple assault players constantly. That being said, you've got to be really careful still. Multiple assault players can still easily take you down if they gang up on you and decide, hey, let's take out their tank. Arras was probably the best map for tank gameplay, with Hamada being more of a struggle because players can have a huge vertical advantage over you, so it becomes much more difficult to avoid incoming dynamite and Panzerfaust. I do have a few gripes with this game mode though. First of all, with a game mode like this, it would be great if the squad leaders could somehow communicate with the other squad and say, hey, we should group up and attack certain flags, just to give a bit more structure to the game mode. Perhaps a squad leader could ping an area and then the other squad leader could see that too, but in a different colour like green or something instead of the usual white or yellow. Because with 8 players on each side, a lot of flanking opportunities could be had if you were able to tell the other squad leader to, I don't know, like defend A while your squad flanks around to C. Could be really useful. And I know, you could use team chat, but of course that isn't always viable in the heat of the moment. What about if you're playing on console? And when you're on a large game mode of Conquest, the reality is that while it would be great to be able to communicate somehow with the other squads via the commo rows, because let's face it, not everyone has voiceover enabled anyway, it wouldn't feel as impactful as it potentially could here. My other gripe, and this hopefully is either a bug or an oversight, is that for whatever reason, the map capture radius on the minimap isn't there. You know that outline that you get on all of the maps and you can see where the flag is and where you've got to stand to start capturing it or not? It's not there. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's bugged or perhaps just a weird omission or oversight, but I don't really see why DICE would intentionally remove that from this game mode. And I've got really used to having that now, and it definitely helps when you're learning new maps or flags and capture radiuses like we have here. Hopefully it is just an oversight and it will be patched back in ASAP. Overall though, in BF5 I had to say that I've enjoyed this smaller game mode where squads and individual players can really shine and make a difference, because flanking really pays off, as does squad communication and squad wipes. It can get pretty hot on certain flags at times with multiple squads fighting over them, but getting a squad wipe feels really rewarding because you know that's not only tickets in the bag for your team, but it also means that you can push your defensive front line up. It's cool, I like it, give it a try. Now, the new SMG. I of course mentioned that there was a new weapon up for grabs. Lots of players will be glad to know that it's a medic weapon called the ZK383. It's a Czech-made SMG that started production in 1938. And this weapon was originally meant to be more of an automatic machine gun, like let's say the Bren or the DP28, but it ended up as a submachine gun, and it looks quite similar to the MP18 from BF1. It also only fires a pistol round. What was relatively unusual at the time was the fact that it had a detachable barrel, an integrated bipod and rifle type sights. So that's a spot of history for you there. But how do you unlock it, and is it worth your time? Well, let's take a look and see. First of all, you need to play 3 rounds of Squad Conquest. Not really too difficult, as you don't need to win, just matchmake and finish the game. Squad Conquest games don't really last all that long either, so it shouldn't be too time consuming. The top path needs 5 squad mates to spawn on you to start with, and that's a bit out of your hands really, but it's easy. In a mode like this you'll definitely get a lot of squad spawns though, so I got this really quickly. Just be patient I guess. And then to finish the upper chain you need to earn 10 defensive kills, and I really dislike assignments that force you to be either defensive or aggressive, but if you stick around some objectives then you'll get this one quite easily. The middle path, on the other hand, needs you to get 15,000 score in Squad Conquest. Luckily, you're already working towards that by just playing the game mode, so just focus on the other paths and see which one you get first. The bottom tree wants you to get 20 kill or squad assists against enemies, which, depending on how easily you get kills, could be really straightforward and just take a few games. Maybe even one game. Lastly, on the bottom, you need to build 15 fortifications in controlled area. Really simple, just rock up to a point and start building, have at it. Then there are only 2 requirements left: revive 10 squad mates and win a game of Squad Conquest. For the reviving teammates one, I'd suggest obviously using medic, because although you can revive squad mates as any class, it's going to be a lot quicker and easier to do this one as a medic, considering how fast the revives are. Winning a game of Squad Conquest, on the other hand, is just down to you getting a good team and squad. Unless you've got some mates that you can team up with. And there is one side optional objective too that you can complete, and that's to revive 6 teammates in 1 life as a medic. It's called Sunny Tater. Interesting description there. What's the gun like? Well, you know what? I really like this one. It's a very accurate gun, but by default it fires quite slow. So with most players favouring weapons like the Suomi and Thompson on the medic, at first glance it might not seem that popular or interesting, but hold that thought. Its fire rate is only 514, which is the same as the MP34, but what it lacks in outright rounds per minute, it makes up for in accuracy. It's a very accurate gun, and I really like the iron sights too. Here's where it gets interesting though. When you're speccing the weapon out, you can actually increase the firing rate up to 720 rounds per minute, which is the same as the Thompson and just behind the Suomi. Now this might seem like the logical thing to do for most players. Combat that slow rate of fire by upping it by about 200 seems like a no-brainer, right? Well, the only issue with that is that if you go down that route, that side, you sacrifice a lot of accuracy. Those medium range shots that you were landing before, because of the slow rate of fire, are now going to be much more difficult. But of course, you've got a faster rate of fire for up close engagement. So it's about your playstyle. While the gun itself might not stand out massively as being super unique, it does at least offer some interesting options when it comes to the specializations and the skill trees. Let's not forget too that it's got a bipod, so you can set up in a window or ledge somewhere and potentially get that fast firing rate and bonus accuracy. Interesting. And speaking of the setup and the skill trees, let's talk full specs. For this gun, what I went for, I opted for the lightened stock so you can move faster when aiming. Very good perk for medic weapons, that. And then I opted for the faster ADS speed, faster rate of fire, just really to try it out. I'm not sure what I'll settle on just yet. And then finally the faster reload. I could easily see lightened stock, custom stock, extended mag and then quick reload also being a real strong setup for this particular weapon. It just goes back to what I was saying earlier. There seem to be a number of different ways that you can use this gun depending on your playstyle. Pick your poison. And so there you have it. The brand new game mode and new weapon in the first chapter of Lightning Strikes is now here. and I'm looking forward to playing more Squad Conquest with mates and seeing how it stacks up long term when it's available. I might get a good squad together tonight and play some games and just record the live commentary so you guys can have a watch. We'll see. If you liked the video, guys, give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.